So I just wanted to say that all of the logical code has been completed. So I'm really super excited about that. What that means is that we've got a whole lot of art and audio to come. I expect that we'll probably be finished probably within the next 6 months. It's pretty crazy getting to this point where this has been a project that has gone. It's been almost a year now. So it's pretty exciting to get to this point. I'd like to thank everybody that participated in the beta. We had a little brief beta. Probably going to do another one in a little bit. And I'm happy to say that all the feedback that you guys gave me, I took into account, and all the bugs and all the suggestions have all been implemented. And that was absolutely invaluable. What we're going to look at today is the running of the game logic, which now is running incredibly smooth. Since the last time I did one of these videos, I've done a tremendous amount of work under the hood. So a lot of it's going to kind of look the same, but what I've done made everything so much smoother. Everything falls in line. I created a system. It's like a queuing system, so that when the user would request something, or when the game would request something, they go into a request queue. So everything is all kept in order. So that's pretty killer. Let's just have a look at the game itself. So right here we have the just the start screen. Click to start. Anybody who's familiar with this has seen this before. Although now I have a loading bar, and that was one of the biggest changes I made under the hood. Was we're going to load each. I call them views. I'm going to get that into that in a little bit, but basically, well, actually, let me explain that first. So what I did was I created the environment in which the world is broken down into what I call views. So let's say I'm viewing this area, and that area consists of, say, the background and a list of items that are in view, basically, right? And each item, I actually have my little visual aid here. So let's say one of the items was this pair of vice grips, right? So each item has a status. So that status could be closed or open. So each item has a list of statuses. Each status has a list of instructions that would apply to that particular status. So let's say I've got an item which is pliers, and I can say close the pliers. So that instruction would then apply to that. I'm going to show you how that works with the game in a little bit. But now that you understand the concept of a view, what we can look at is the loading process. So what I did was, to try to make it more user-friendly, I had it so that it's loading up any potential view that the user could go to next in the background. So they're in one place, but everything around them is being loaded. And as they move through the map, that surrounding area is once again being loaded as they move, while I'm disposing of data from where they moved away from. And I tried to do this in a way that minimized the amount of loading that they would go through. So let's look at a couple things here. So let's just walk into the mansion. So let me walk down the path. Is a nice one. Down the path. So I type that in. We get a response. And notice that animation played really beautifully. Also, like if you go into the menu, so say I go into the help menu, once again, everything is just running incredibly smooth. The menu for loading, saving, all the games is all right here. So let's say I wanted to save this particular game state. I could say new, and then I could hit save. Do I actually want to save? And now I have my new save game here. Let me close that. I can get into such things like inventory. So like, actually I don't have anything in inventory now. There's a key on the table. So let me just pick that up. So take key. Okay, so now I have the key. So now if I go to my inventory now, it shows up. And notice all of these things are just, it's running super, super, super smooth. The next thing to show off is another fundamental change that I made, which is what I called stacking views. So this is one view, but let's say I opened a drawer or I did something else that required it to kind of zoom into that area of the view. It now allows you to put one view on top of another on top of another. So let's look at that real quick. Let's grab the sword. So we're going to take. Let me click over here. We're going to take the sword. And mind you, I can't reiterate this enough. The graphics that you're looking at, now the look and feel is correct for this game because it's a throwback. It's an 80s throwback. That's why it looks the way it looks. But a lot of the stuff that you're seeing is not going to be in the finished game. This is just placeholder graphics. Maybe I might use the that mansion front, maybe, but the rest of this is all just placeholders. But here's how the stack view works. If the item is now in my inventory, I can look at it, and we get that view stacked on top of the other one. And I did it so that you could continue that stacking. So even if I said, let's say there's a pretend gem on the hilt. Mind you, remember, this is all just temporary. We can now stack another view onto that again. If I hit back, that view goes away. I can hit back again. That view goes away again. The other thing I added were the ability to chain animations. And not only to chain animations, but to do them randomly so that one animation could chain to another animation which might follow another. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk back outside of the mansion, and now notice how everything has changed, because by walking in the mansion, we've now triggered a series of events that happens outside the mansion. So we're going to walk outside. And notice you get a really nice layered look here where the rain is actually layered on top as a transparency, semi-transparent. I'll show you how that works in a sec. And if you notice, the lightning are random. So how it works is once it gets to the end of a particular animation cycle, it can randomly choose what the next one's going to be, or it can go to something that you would want it to be. You could even use this as a counter. Let's say I wanted something to happen after a specific period of time, but I didn't want the user to know about the counter. I could actually have a very simple animation playing behind the scenes, and at the end of that animation, something would get triggered. So let's have a look at what is actually going on underneath the hood. There's two applications that I designed that create the content for the game. So let's look at first the dictionary editor. Actually, let me exit this application, and then we will go to the dictionary editor. So here is our dictionary editor. Once again, this is a companion application that I created for the content creation. This is nothing that somebody playing the game would see. However, someday, if people like this system, I'll actually allow people to license this system out, and they can make their own games, their own stories, using this system. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to File here, and we're going to load up this dictionary. And what you see here is we have all the words that the game understands. Anytime I want to add another word, for the game to understand, I can add it here. And the one thing that I did do is, like, let's take a look at a word like, I don't know, in, or something like that. So if you notice here, I also have a search bar up at the top here, where once the dictionary gets pretty big, you're gonna want to be able to search for particular words to see if they're in there, to see how they're categorized, see if they're used. So what we have is the word in. Well, what I did was I said that the word inside could also kind of mean the same thing as in. So I put them in as a synonym, meaning that in the game, if I want to refer to the word in, I just have to use in and I don't have to use inside. If the user says inside, it's going to give me the same result as if they said in. And then I label it as a preposition. Like another thing, if I wanted to, remove a word, I could remove it, or change any of its, data here. These words over here are in a special category. They were words that had multiple meanings. So like you could say like lock the lock, meaning that they could be a verb or a noun. So any words that might come up as special meanings I put over here. Same thing like with adjectives. Like you could say open the open container or close the open container. Well, open is now an adjective. So I had to have contingencies for that. And the other thing that I did with this game is there was what they call language parsers available that I could use, but I wanted the user to be able to abbreviate their language, and I didn't want them to get stuck with having to write complete sentences. So they could just say something like look rock. Well, I don't have any of the other keywords in there to figure out the grammar using traditional systems, so I actually had to code the system from scratch. Let's get into the next application here, which is the level building application. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. So those who aren't interested in sort of the mechanics of how the game is built might want to check out now, and I appreciate you hanging out and whatnot, and there's going to be a lot more updates to come. But let's get into the mechanics of this. This is actually where the rubber meets the road as far as content creation. So when I get in there and I'm actually creating the user experience, this is where I do it. So let's look at this. If you remember, I said that the game consists of a series of views. Okay, each view is numbered, and you would see that number down here. So this box here will have the number of views in total. This box would have the view that you're currently on, and this view here allows you to type in the number that you want to go to. So let us actually let's just load that. Let's just load that file right now. So this is the file system that I created to work with it. Let's go up a directory level, and this is the most current version of the game that there is. So if you notice, these are just XML files. So what they are is the basis of what the user is going to be interacting with. So let's go ahead and load that up. Okay, so there's that same view that you saw from the game, but this is the breakdown of how it was built. So in this view, I have a list of items, kind of like I said. So here's the rock, which is actually here. It's a little hard to see, but remember, all these graphics are very temporary. So here's the rock right here. It has an item, like I mentioned before. There's a status. So there's only one status for the rock. It doesn't really change. And then it has all of the things associated with that rock. So we're going to look at, say, this top one. This is its item ID number. So this ID number follows it throughout the game. So if I wanted to refer to that rock, it would be rock 01. This next one is the view description text. So kind of the default text that you get when you walk into that view would be here. This next one is whether or not this view has a floor for you to drop an item on. So let's say I'm in a view that's like inside of a drawer, or I'm in a view that's somewhere where I can't drop an item. So this lets you choose whether you can drop it or not. The next one is the status number. So let's say a particular item looks a certain way when I'm holding it, but maybe it looks another way when I drop it on the floor. So this is how it would look when it's dropped on the floor. What status does it go to when it's dropped on the floor? This is its name. This is its display name. So that means when the game refers to it and it wants to bring it up in text, like let's say I said, look at all the items on the floor or something like that. So any item that has a descriptor, which I'll get into in a second, of on the floor, is gonna populate in that list. So, and this is the name that it's going to refer to it with. Status name, that's more internal. Users would never see that. Group name is legacy. I never used it. Something I never ended up using. Then you've got a list of adjectives. So let's say you had a big rock and a small rock. Well, how would you distinguish between the two? Right here, you could make one big, one small. That way the user can differentiate between them. They can use the adjective when referring to it, not use the adjective when referring to it. Then you have down here what I call descriptors. So on path, in path, because if you notice the rock is in the path. So like let's say the user said, look on the path or look in the path. Then it would give a list of all the items that are there where they asked to look. This works with means that there could be another item in the game somewhere that it works with. So like a lock and a key would work together. This is actually where we get the graphic from. So we can go into images and we can see that there's a rock right here. So this is its graphic, and I can change the graphics for any of these items in there. This is the item's priority number. So different priority numbers as it's drawing the screen, right? It's drawing it in layers. So the higher the priority number, the closer it is to the user in that list. Then we have animation. So where's its animation file? What does it look like when it's animating? This is what it looks like when it's at rest. This is what it looks like when it's animating. This is the sound that it makes. So I can load up the sound. And then we get into a bunch of other things like, is it playing a sound, other things like that. Over here is where we have instructions. These are things that I can do to that item. So I could drop it, I could get it, I could look at it. And everything over here is things like what is required to get that particular instruction to fire. Does it require an adverb? Do I have to do it in a particular way, like mix something quickly or something like that? This is the text that's returned, and things like this, like when this instruction is fired, this item is going to be added to the view. This item is going to be removed from the view. This one here is one of the biggest ones, though. This is called change item status. And what that means is when this particular instruction is performed on this particular item, I can have multitudes of different things change in the game, like doors opening, it's different things shifting. And it doesn't have to be one thing. It could be multiple items. I can shift between states of them being animated, not animated, playing sounds, not playing sounds. And here's another neat one here. So let's say I'm looking at the rock. I can go into what I call editing mode. And now I actually have this little box. If you notice, everything else is grayed out because I don't want people messing around with that while they're in this mode. You can move that rock around. I can make it bigger, smaller. So a lot of the game is going to be built in Photoshop with the layers as I build each view. But then I export the layers and then I rebuild the scene inside of this app. And that's probably about as far as I want to get into this particular app. Just understand I can add more items, I can remove items, I can move them up and down the list. I can do the same thing with statuses, the same thing with instructions. I can add more views. So really that's about it. Like let's go look at, say, view number 1, which is that room. View number 2 is just the close-up of that sword. View number 4, I was actually starting to make it this kind of sacrificial table looking thing. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with this whole thing. Just super excited because everything is in place. All the tools are in place. Everything's in place. It's just a matter of massive amount of graphics and sound. So it's going to be a whole lot of Blender, Photoshop, maybe mixed, just glad I have that Adobe subscription, let's just say. So thanks for bearing with me, and see you next time.